Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of E-commerce Mastery. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Anthony Amos. Now, Anthony has done some incredible things on his journey, including taking his company, HydroDog, to an enormous business with over 200 franchises, over $10 million annually in revenue, and is now bringing that company into the world of e-commerce. So, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on to the show today, for being awesome in general, and for sharing some of your time.
Well, mate, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the kind introduction. Even though we've just met, what a great job you just did. You know, most people sort of, deliver the information and it's not believable, but I totally believe what you just said. So we're off to a good start.
Good thing I'm only saying things that are true. So then could use that power for good. I'm really excited to dive into the principles of how you really built your business. And then I'm also interested in talking a little bit about your perspective of e-commerce and why you decided to get into that. So before we get into that, though, I would love to talk about your story and how you built the business, how you got to where you are today.
All right. So the introduction was sort of a little bit, almost a small piece of where we're at today, which is really good because it's going to sort of shock you, which is fantastic for you and your loyal listeners. Going back to Australia, 21 years of age, playing professional football. I went straight from high school at 18 and started playing professional, what they call, rugby league back home. And in the off season, I played 2 years, and entrepreneurs struggle being told what to do. But the ironic part of that is they're very coachable. And that fine line that you can only make sense of when you get into your 40s, I believe, like no disrespect to anybody that's under 40, but I'm trying to work out that no one can tell me what to do, but yet I can be guided by the right people that I trust with their experience is almost an oxymoron, at the end of the day. So I was going through the process where I had coaches and professionals and, telling me what to do. And I was sort of okay with it because I was getting good results. But when I had to fight against my mates for the position on the weekends and, had to deal with, people that were cranky when we lost, and it sort of took the fun out of the game for me. So I decided I wanted to jump in and run my own business. So I bought this $1,400 hydro bath, which is, you get a shower rose and you wash your dogs. Put it in a garden trailer that was in my backyard, and put an ad in the paper for $10. And I literally started my own business. And I'll tell you how it actually started, because I don't want this to be the longest, podcast in the world, because I do want to get to the e-commerce part. But it's good for everybody else out there that you don't need to know what you need to know. You've just got to get in and start with what you're really excited about. People talk about passion all the time, but if you don't have a purpose, passion doesn't mean anything. But if you're excited and you just want to give it a go, then get out there and do it. And a lot of people make the mistake where they want to perfect it. They want to get it just right before they get it to market. You've got to get out there with imperfections. You absolutely have to get into the market before there's any guarantee that something might make sense. If it excites you and, takes you away from a passion I lived my whole life with rugby league to washing dogs, like my family laughed at me at the other day when I was washing dogs. And it took a new life on its own. So we rented a mobile phone. We stuck an ad in the paper on Friday. I get this call on Saturday morning. And I honestly thought it was the fire alarm because my mobile phone had never rung before. So we answered the phone. Hello, HydroDog, Anthony speaking. Yes, I just saw your ad in the paper. You wash dogs for $10? I was like, oh, yes, we do. Where do you live? So I wrote the address down. So I went to pick up my brother, who lives about 30 minutes away from me. By the time I got to where he was, I had 9 dogs booked in. 9 dogs. 9 customers wanted dogs washed. Never been done before. And the day before, we got the towels, the brushes, the shampoos. We went shopping. So we went and got all of that stuff and put it in the back of the bath, and we get to our first job. I was the customer related person. He was the dog washing guy. I love dogs more than him, just to be clear about that. but someone had to relate to the customers very well. I've loved people my whole life, and he sort of tolerated people his whole life. So people pick up on that sort of stuff. So anyway, I'm talking to the customer, and he comes back and he says, "We've got a problem." I said, "What?" He said, "I've left the dog shampoo at home." What? He said, "I picked up the dishwashing liquid instead. It was on the kitchen bench." And so the long story short is we washed our first dogs in dishwashing liquid. And that's how HydroDog began at the end of the day. So in a very short period of time, we ended up with me and my brother with a trailer, 5 employees. So we had 7 on the road. And when you don't have skin in the game in the service industry, let alone a mobile grooming business, it's detrimental to its success, because people, when it rains, they stay in bed, or snows here, they stay in bed, they get drunk on Friday night, they're not going to go to work on Saturday. If the girls get pregnant, and God bless them, they're going to walk away from the business because it's more important. But if you've got a married couple and she gets pregnant, they've just invested an enormous amount of money for their success, they're not going to walk away. They're going to work out, how do we sell it, or how do we get the husband involved? So the whole dynamic changes when there's skin in the game at the end of the day. So that took us back to one trailer. I put the others on a mate's property of mine, and then we saw this guy that was in a franchising expo for the first time on the Gold Coast where we lived. And he said, "You guys look confused." I said, "Well, how does this franchising thing work?" He said, "Well, if you've got a product that you can duplicate," well, we can, because we've been doing it for 2 years. People will pay you for that experience, and then they'll pay you a royalty every month. No way. People do that? He said, "Yes." I said, "How does that make any sense?" Well, from your perspective, how much money, time, energy, and effort have you put into this business? Oh, it's sucked every single experience out of our lives. All our money, all our time, all our effort. People are prepared to pay for what you've just done to get a turnkey operation. And then the light globe went off, and I thought, geez, people want to go from a job or a business to a turnkey operation. They don't want to have to go through what we went through. So then all of a sudden, I was like, this is unreal. We had the biggest and most successful growth in Australian history with our business. Like in 4-something years, we got to 100 franchises, absolutely on fire, dominated the marketplace. It was a really incredible experience. And we had a goal where we'd fly to Geneva and buy a Rolex once we got to 100 franchises. So we did that. And then I came back from the experience in Geneva, and I said to my brother, I want to sell now. He's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, the fun's sort of gone out of it. We've got 100 franchisees. I'm dealing with all the franchisees. You know, you're sort of dealing with all the back end office. You're not dealing with all the personalities. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just gets exhausting. You know, like you do the same thing over and over again. And, you know, I needed something more." We went back to the same guy after all those years and said, "Mate, listen, Anthony wants to sell. What should we do?" He said, "You can turn it into a master franchise." Well, what does that mean? Well, someone's going to purchase a state or territory off you, because we've got 8 of them in Australia, and they're going to pay you money up front, and they're going to take on the franchisees, and you can split the royalties and the franchise fee and be a part of the company. It was almost that deja vu. Who would want to do that? Like, seriously? He said, "But think about it. Again, look at all the hard work. They're coming into like a business with revenue, a business with brand, a business with success." And I was like, oh my God, this is like, so within 18 months, sold out the whole of Australia. It was one of the most unbelievable experiences of my life. So we went through that, and then roughly about a year and a half later, we created the Big Blue Dog. Have you seen the Big Blue Dog yet?
I have not, but I'm
right.
going
So
to.
The Big Blue Dog is the mobile grooming salon that goes to people's homes to wash and groom your dog. We took mobile grooming to an epic level. They weren't trailers anymore. There's a Big Blue Dog, and no one can duplicate it or replicate what we created with the protection that we've got. So it's now been out there for about 18 years. And it was a really defining moment. We literally changed the industry. You know, like nobody wanted to purchase a franchise off anybody else that was a mobile grooming business because they didn't have a Big Blue Dog. So long story short, we ended up coming to America, and we found out that 5,000 dogs get euthanized a day. And my wife said to me one night, it happened like this. The kids saw that Sarah McLachlan ads or it makes a grown man cry. Come and save these dogs now or they're going to be euthanized. And they said, Mum, we've got to be able to do something about it. So in the middle of the night, Rachel said to me, I've got a great idea, which women always do, mind you. Let's get a 40-foot RV and put the big blue dog on the back of the RV, and we don't have to be anywhere. Let's go and travel the country and rescue a lot of dogs. Not only was that brilliant, that was like something that your wife would never say, because they want security, they want the family in the home, they want them to go to the schools. But this is what I do know about my wife. She changes her mind 5 times a day. So I'm thinking, I've got to go and buy this RV now. So I go and buy the RV, I bring it home, and it's like, oh my God, what have you done? I'm just backing up your great idea. Well, hold on a second. We haven't even spoken about what we're... Well, listen, we've got that. And so anyway, so from that moment moving forward, the idea was 50 states, 150 cities in a year and a half. So get on the bus. The kids do what's called School of the Air. They go back to Australia. They're learning the Australian curriculum. We're on the road. Long story short, did 48 states, multiple states at a time, rescued and washed thousands of dogs over 3 years, not a year and a half. And the reason that it happened that way is it took us a year and a half to get the traction. Until we're on Rachel Ray, Larry King, and Animal Planet doing a 6-episode series with us, we just, in the end, couldn't say no, because every time we went to an event, the Amos family from Australia turns up, 63 feet of awesomeness with the bus and the big blue dog, and pretty much 100% of the time, all the dogs were rescued or got a forever home because of that excitement. And it got very... And there were days where I would drive 16 hours, 18 hours a day to get to an event, because it takes so much longer to get to an event, but we were so... what's the word? We had to be so responsible to be on time somewhere, but it just took us so much longer to get there. So I often say this to people, I'm the only person that can drink a 5-hour energy drink and get 10 hours out of it. I was like on fire. I would seriously just had that in my head that we had to get there and we'd seriously make a difference, and it became incredible. But it got to the point where we just wanted a little bit of normalcy, So we came up into the New England area, and we were getting ready to do an event, and we had to drive a dog over to Missouri with my son. It was a little bit of a road trip between both of us, and I thought I had kidney stones, and I really was struggling. And we ended up staying in a hotel and dropped the dog off, and big blue dog off, and I ended up going to the toilet, and without being disgusting, something came out that wasn't meant to. I said to my son, "That doesn't look good, does it?" He said, "Oh, Dad, that's just... no, there's something wrong." So I flew back to the New England area where we are in New Hampshire right now. And long story short, I ended up having bowel cancer, and the cancer within the bowel had married up against the bladder, created a fistula, and caused all of this major, major drama. So it was sort of serious stage 3. And we just happened to get this incredible home right at the right time that was available, 12 minutes from Exeter Hospital. And I went through major chemo treatment, radiation. When I talk about major, it's like every single week for 7 months. Then I did every single day of radiation for 7 weeks. It was a major full-on experience. So we literally went from traveling around the country to brakes on, stop here, because we had Hawaii and Alaska to go because we want to finish the 50 states. And in that period of time, we had to completely readjust, work out exactly where we're at. We can't go back to Australia. We need to be here to work it out. The reason I share that with you, because I actually haven't, put that out to the public. I'm cancer-free now, which is great, but I'm still going through the aftermath of that. There's the whole, dealing with a colostomy bag and all that sort of stuff, that without being gross to your customers, but I'm just sort of being real. I've still got that, but that's sort of coming to an end. Hopefully by the end of September, everything will be great. The reverse will be done, and I'll be as happy as Larry, as we say in Australia. Happy as Larry is like something we say all the time. But the reason that that's important is that we grew HydroDog 1,000% with me being on the lounge chair with our company because of the social consciousness that we created on that 3 years being on the road. We never sold one franchise in that 3-year period for 2 reasons. One, I didn't want the American public to say, oh, they're just selling franchises. They're just doing the Bathe to Save, rescuing animals to sell franchises. Not that everybody thinks like that, but I just didn't want any bad press, especially from opposition. Maybe
couldn't even come into the conversation.
No, I wanted zero. So then the second part was, I couldn't have supported franchisees. Like, we're traveling across the country. We get to New York, we're doing a big event, and I get a call from someone in Colorado or Florida. Oh, I need your help. Oh, mate, okay, we've got to stop the tour. I've got to get on a plane. I've got to go and support. I just know what it's like. I've been there. I've done it. Certain personalities need support in those first three months of growing their business. And that was really the main force. But it was a combination enough for me. Now, you can imagine, you go to an event, people look up our website, franchises, this is the business. So when are you selling? We're not doing it yet. And I think that in itself put us into a different category where when we started to market, I've never personally put up for sale a master franchise territory. I've never done that. And it's because somebody came in that I had a connection with, and then that person knew someone else, and that person said, this person would be great. And I'll tell you how our system works. A master franchisee will purchase, for example, South Carolina. They come in as the representative of South Carolina. They know the culture. They understand how the business works. And they will sell franchises underneath them and put big blue dogs on the ground. So all the big blue dogs that come on the ground, they get local support from the guy that's lived in South Carolina forever. The South Carolina master gets all the support from me. So I build my team up here where I've got 19 of them. We work closely with each other. I give them all of my knowledge. I work very closely to make it all work. And they then influence all the franchisees that come on and do exactly what I did in Australia. By having 100 franchisees, you can make a great amount of friendships, a great amount of difference, and a ton of money by doing the right thing, because we're not focused on money first. We're focused on making a difference, changing people's lives, and we just happen to be compensated by doing something like that. So that culture is rife with what we do. And to think that we've been doing it for such a short period of time, when we're screaming up to nearly 60 franchises right now, just over a year and a half, you can't even sort of explain that growth. But for me, I know what it is. It's being on the road for 3 years with a wife that only wanted to do it for a year and a half. Now, you got to remember, we had 3 rabbits, a rescue dog. We had children that turned into teenagers over that period of time. And we sacrificed a lot. So when you Google us and you look at Bathe to Save or the Forever Home series and HydroDog, you start to get a theme about our commitment to the company. And there's very, very few founders and owners of a business that would sacrifice or commit to the brand like we did. And they're the people we're attracting. We're attracting families that want to be able to go to dog washing events and Bathe to Save events where they can take their kids and be a part of it. Mum and dad get out of the corporate world and they kiss their kids in the morning and take them to school and watch them play soccer on Saturday, and not the old kiss them while they're asleep when we go to work and kiss them when I get home from work and, oh, we got the weekends. And the biggest mistake most people say is, but when we're together, we have quality time. Kids don't want quality time. They just want time. They don't even understand what quality time is. That's in their head. Their head's like, I'm going to justify this because we're going to take them to Disneyland on the weekend. But I didn't see him from Monday to Friday. Dad, but you weren't here. I had this problem with maths, or, we went on this excursion and, I didn't get to come home to tell you what it was all about. So there's that massive misconception that you have to work your ass off Monday to Friday and give quality time on the weekend. It's not what kids want. They get to that certain age when they've started to realize, but Dad, you were never here. Hold on a second. We went to Disney World and we did this, but the kids don't remember that. They remember you went and did that, but where were you when, I was at soccer and I fell over and hurt my knee? Mum was there. Like, she came out and, you know what I mean? Like, it's the nuances that has made a difference. But our company prides itself in coming in, men and women. It's like a 50-50 balance, believe it or not. But you've got to remember, I ran my own round for 6 years in Australia. Here's this football guy, completely breaking the glass ceiling that women just don't do this stuff. And that's what we attract into this company. It's like, if you love dogs and you really like people, well, I shouldn't say it. I mean, I love dogs and I really like people, but we've got a lot of people that really love dogs that don't like people. And that's an attraction to them at the end of the day. And that's okay. Like, there's no problem with that. And customers know that as long as you're making sure their dog is loved and treated like their children, they don't care whether you like them or not. It's all about the dog. Does the dog like the franchisee? And of course they do. That's who we're attracting into this business. So once we get it over the other side, and we're sitting here on the lounge for the last year and a half, growing this business across the country, bringing in amazing people, probably sitting at about 25% of my capacity. I'm sort of about 80 now. Like, once all this stuff gets reversed, I'll be back to 100 by October. And everyone's sitting there going, oh my God, how much better can it get? You know what I mean? Like, I swear to you, it's been really tough, especially for the kids. Like, when you've got to say to your kids, oh, look, got some bad news, I got cancer. It's like, holy like, it's a tough thing to say to your family. But when you can say at the end of it, I guess what? I beat cancer, I don't have it anymore. It's like, oh my God. Because every dad's 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And when there's a chink in the armor, it's like, oh, but you've got to come back with force and grow a business and get healthy again and defy the odds. And now all of a sudden you're 20 foot tall and bulletproof. Like, there's a different analogy, let alone respect from the kids. But very few people at the end of the day can sort of have an inspiration like I've had with HydroDog. HydroDog literally saved my life, to sit here and grow a company on the lounge chair for the last, year and a half just blows my mind. But we only could do it because of the foundation we created by doing what I call the apprenticeship on the road, by creating a social consciousness that, like, if you Google and see all of our assets, it's going to blow your mind. You're really going to see some good stuff. But what all your listeners can do today, we just spent the last 6 weeks watching 6 episodes on Animal Planet, 30 minutes, 6 episodes in a row. I've got to tell you, getting the family and waking everybody up. Come on, kids, we've got to go down and watch the show on TV. And what's set in stone, mate, is, I don't want to cry on your TV show, but I've got to tell you, like, there's not many families that can watch like a series from Animal Planet. It's one of the most respected companies and organizations in the world, that took our show on for 6 episodes. And we get to sit here 6 Saturdays in a row, like sometimes before the Irwins, sometimes before parole, bullies and pitties and paroles. Like, we're amongst like really awesome shows and awesome people that have done awesome things. And we get to watch ourselves that we spent 3 years doing. And it was just so motivating and so special to us. And it's been so popular and successful that they're ready to do the 2nd season in October 1st. Everybody wants to see how these kids are growing, because that's like a 2-year program that's just started to air. But as far as a dad goes, if I've ever accomplished something in my whole life, it's to have a TV show about the brand that I live and breathe that saved my life. And you've got to remember, there's 19 masters and like 36 franchisees right now that love this company as much as I do, and their exposure and their real commitment to the brand. But to have the family watching it like on TV every Saturday for 6 weeks in a row, man, like, it just doesn't get any better than that.
That was a hell of a story. That was amazing. We talked a little bit about before the show about going into some fundamentals of how you really grew the business, but I really think you covered most of them in your story. I mean, it really seems like you went all in on this to a point that it would be almost impossible to do for most people. I mean, it seems like you really put your heart and soul and everything that you had into the business, into the company. And I mean, it seems like it seems like you're a very family oriented person, and you replicated that in the business. Like, to me, that's one of the shining principles that is coming through here, is like the things that you love about your family, and the things that you love are all shining through in the business.
It's so very true. And I tell you this, when you have a relationship with, I've got them with all the masters, some of the franchisees that came in early, but when you create this loyalty, especially with Americans, like I was only talking to Damien, who's from New Zealand, who's my fiberglass that puts a big blue dog on the back of the truck. Our cultures are so similar. It's unbelievable. And we feel the same way, that Americans take a lot longer to trust somebody. Like, it's always, what are you after, or what's in it for you? And that's no disrespect. I am absolutely pigeonholing just the relationships that we've come to. But Australian and New Zealanders have this, great to meet you. You've got 100% of my trust right now. It's up to you to ruin it. Like, imagine not being my friend. Like, think about that for a second. I'm going to say to you right now, I trust you 100%. There's nothing that you can do why we shouldn't be friends moving forward, unless you did something that was just ridiculous that I didn't like. But that's what we have. We don't feel like anybody's taking anything, or that anyone's trying to get something out of us. We just want to bring something to the table that we care a lot about. We're completely invested in animal rescue, and we want all of our master franchisees and their franchisees to feel exactly the same. Let me bring an Australian culture into this, American world with our franchise that I've obviously been very successful with, that I'm duplicating. And when you talk about, imagine if you had a crystal ball, I just happen to have one. And that's what's amazing about this. It's almost, in unison of what I've been successful with. I know every single one of these master franchisees can get 100 franchisees and be incredibly successful, but it's family. It's like caring about other people, saving animals' lives. Like, that whole feeling within our organization, it's the giving back. Like, I've sort of put it down to this. You get to about 35 to 40, and you ask yourself the question, what's my legacy? Like, what's my give back? Where have I been influential at the end of the day? Our company provides that. You get out of your corporate world and jump into HydroDog, and now you're taking your kids around to wash a few dogs and come to a Bathe the Save event, and you're raising money and saving lives, and your kids look up to you and go, wow, Dad, like, we just rescued 3 dogs today. What? Like, that's just life-changing stuff, mate. And that's what's going on with all of us across the country, with all the masters. We've all had an experience where we turned up and washed a dog, and somebody rescued it because HydroDog washed and made that dog smell and look good, because the family was like, geez, that could fit in with our family at the end of the day. Hey, as Australians, it's like we have this word, she'll be right, mate. Like, it's going to work out okay. And that stresses a lot of American relationships out, because that's not enough for them. That's not enough certainty. They want it done yesterday. And I think once we get to that bottom part of it all, it sort of gets into like the culture of it again. You know what I mean? Because it gets replicated, and it still stays very intense. Like, I'm not saying I'm not intense, no, I'm not passionate, but I just know, doing this as long as I have, I'm 48 years of age. I'm very, very proud of that, because the older you get, the more wisdom you have. As long as you work on it, though, like, you've really got to be interested in people. You've got to really understand that everybody's going through a struggle. The moment that people can really recognize, even when I was going through my treatments, I knew people on the other side of the phone call was going through their own struggles. I knew they had their own stuff that was going on. Doesn't mean it has to be at my level. Like, we're all given these certain things in life that you can only deal with yourself. And whatever I'm having compared to whoever I'm talking to, that could be exactly the same level in their world. So as long as we can look at people, and when they don't have a smile on their face or they're struggling a little bit, it's not like they're an arsehole, they're a bad person. They're just not dealing with what they're going through right now at the right time. And we just happen to, have a conversation or a moment where we should have given them a little bit more slack. And when you realize that about everybody's going through a struggle on some level, your relationships completely change, because it's almost like they feel that, if you know what I mean. Like, they understand that you sort of got this, easy conversation with a smile on your face and knowing a little bit that you are in a little bit of a hurt right now, but it's a positive conversation. And as much as I don't like to say this, but I learned very early on, if you put two people in the room and there's one negative and one positive, two negative people walk out of the room. And I just can't get my head around that. I'm up for the challenge. Put me in the room with a negative person and let's just see what that result is. But that speaks volumes though, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Really does.
So they're already there. Let's just sort of wave it through and not focus on that this is a shitty day and just, I don't know, try and make somebody laugh that's not smiling, because you can always get someone. You can always say something that's going to make somebody laugh. And I think that's what our job should be. Like, let's get involved in a conversation, and someone that you know is hurting right now, let's just try and make them smile. But this is the best way through it. Do you have a dog? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Is it rescue? Yes, it is. Oh, let me tell you what I've just done for the last 3 years. See, that's my stick in the sand. There's no arguments going back and forwards, whether it's the worst day in their world. If they've got a rescue dog and they hear what our family's just done, holy shit, I make more friends than you can ever imagine by having that conversation. But this is the downfall. Do you have a dog? Yes. Do you have a rescue? Oh, no. I've got a purebred German Shepherd. Oh, I love German Shepherds. They're my favorite dogs. Oh, where do I go from here? But, you know, most of the people have got a rescue dog these days. And there's nothing wrong with having a purebred, because there's many purebreds that are available in shelters anyway. You know what I mean? Like, we're going through a movement. People would prefer to rescue an animal than purchase one. But there's nothing wrong if someone does, because they're still going to love them and look after them like their own children. So they don't sort of read into this that I've got anything against people having purebreds. I'm just saying that it's an easier conversation when you've got a rescue to align with somebody. A, you've saved a life, but B, you've got a story to tell. Either the shelter knows or you know, and you align yourself with each other. So tell me your rescue story. Oh, this boa constrictor came out of nowhere, wrapped around and bit off his bottom ear and went off into the grass. Now, we all know that, you know, he's over-exaggerated, but that's what he wants to tell us. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. He just wants to feel good that he's got a great story to share, that this is why he saved his dog at the end of the day. So I think that's a happy place to live, when you really understand that everybody's going through some sort of struggle, that you can, you know, get outside of your own problems and help them out.
I agree. And what I love about that too is, and also I'm going to not so subtly tie it back into e-com, is that if we can take this idea of essentially loving other people and making sure that we're putting ourselves in their shoes and we can help make their day better, if we take that same attitude towards our customers, then we can build an enormous business. And there's nothing stopping us, because most businesses aren't really doing that for their customers. So if we differentiate ourselves by doing that, it'll set us worlds apart.
Mate, couldn't agree with you more. And we built a massive foundation tonight to come to, obviously, the guts of the story, which is e-commerce. The reason I built such a big platform tonight to share with everyone what you have to do to get to a business model that has a huge following, a huge respect, and also an understanding of what the business principles and the culture is, then you can build an e-commerce platform on the back end of that. Now, some other people do it around the other way. They'll build an e-commerce platform and build their audiences, but we have loyal, respectful people. And the moment that we build our e-commerce, we've already got our audience. It's most of the time the opposite compared to what most people want to do if they want to become into the e-commerce world. But if you look at it from our perspective, is this: when a franchisee is making the money they're making, which is, mate, we've got a girl in, I'm not joking when I say this, and anybody can call her and ask her, she's doing $22,000 a month right now, just washing and grooming dogs. 22 grand a month. The average franchisee does between 10 and 15 grand. Now, their expenses are roughly about 3.5 grand to 4 grand a month. And our e-commerce platform we're building for customers that they're doing their dogs with. Remember what I said before, when a customer knows that the dog loves you, they're not going to get Amazon to drop ship their dog food. They're not going to get Walmart to do it. They're going to get us, even if it's a couple of bucks more. I'm not saying that it is, but They love us so much because their dog loves us. When we get our e-commerce platform set up and these franchisees are making $3.5 grand, $4 grand a month in pet food sales and dog food sales and what have you, when a prospect down the track says, so tell me, it sounds great. You're making 10 grand a month. What are your expenses? Well, I happen to have an e-commerce business inside my business, and it pays for all my expenses. So every dollar I make goes 100% to me. What? Is that even possible? Like, let's think about that. If we really like work hard on our e-commerce with our franchisees' customers, and they're making all the money to pay for their expenses to run their business, and they bring in 10 grand a month and they take home 10 grand a month, that's the game changer. Like right now, it's a game changer. Like no one else is doing what we're doing. But imagine if we eliminate all our expenses in our business. That's what e-commerce does. E-commerce changes the direction of your business model by adding that extra element in of being a business inside a business. And that to me is like the ultimate success of running something like we have right now that ties into, it's not like we're trying to sell, chocolates to the wives on Sundays. We're literally selling dog food to the customers because our principles of what we're doing with the pet aligns itself with what our product is that we can actually drop ship to their front door. Pet care products, shampoos, dog food. Like these guys just love their pets so much. They want to get anything that they can get to make their dogs feel special. And that's why I'm building such a massive e-commerce platform right now. We're putting a lot of investment in it. I was always going to do it, but it wasn't the right time for me to work on it. I'm a big believer in the economy of scale. Like I really understand what it takes with volume that makes sense to invest early on to get the return. And if you do it too early, you can almost sort of, put yourself behind the 8 ball because you don't have enough revenue coming in to cover the expense if you actually put the system in. So we're now on the precipice of doing it. Probably still 90 days away, but in a really good position for our franchisees to get there and, say to us, we don't have any expenses anymore in our business.
That is brilliant, of using e-commerce as a tool to eliminate all of your expenses. It's almost a bolt-on to what you're already doing because you have the customer base, you have the community, you have the trust, and now you're just solving more of their problems. They don't have to get up and go to the store to pick up dog food. Now it comes straight to their house. That is brilliant. That is really brilliant.
You just said something really important. E-commerce only works if you solve a problem. That's the only time it works. If you're in there trying to, gain a large piece of the pie in an industry that somebody already else is in because their sales are great, if it's not solving a problem, it's a very short-term experience of making money because it can become a fad where they go, wow, look at this shiny object. We love it. And they buy it, but they're buying it because they've got the money, but it doesn't solve a problem. If you have a core value principle where your product is solving a problem, it's always going to be an evergreen product.
That makes so much sense. And I also love the idea of building your audience first, building the foundation first, and then introducing e-commerce into the ecosystem. Because one of the hardest things that I see a lot of sellers experience, or one of the things they struggle with the most, is traffic, getting traffic into getting customers, getting traffic to their store, getting people to know, like, and trust them. And when you have the community first, you've already done the hard work. You put in the effort, and now it's just making it better and better for everybody.
You know what that boils down to? It boils down to transparency. If you're honest and you can put all your cards on the table and be absolutely no about it, people are going to go, I'm in. We can't fool people anymore. Not that I ever tried to. I mean, in my 20s, I was always really good at manipulating people to buy a franchise. They always worked out to be the worst ones in the world. But you can't convince somebody because of your passion to do something they've already said no to at the end of the day. You can get them over the line if they've said no because they're scared or they need more. If we can eliminate what their insecurities are without manipulating, then you're always going to get the best results at the end of the day. But if we're completely transparent about what we do and how we do it, and there's no sort of smoke and mirrors or, what's behind curtain 3, everybody's going to be a fan and be a part of the business. But if there's that slight little salesy sort of, well, my gut's not telling me the right thing. This all started back in 2008 and 9 when the economy crashed at that time. People lost their homes, people lost their families, there was divorces. It was a horrendous period of time, and everybody hardened up. You couldn't fool anybody anymore from those people that were trying to fool everybody with their sales techniques. It's not, I love sales. I think sales is the most unbelievable thing that you could ever do, but you've got to be authentic about it, because authenticity today is what the game changer is. People want to believe in you that you're not, full of rubbish. And authenticity and transparency, if you've got that in your business model and your culture and how you deliver it, then how can you go wrong? I'm 48 years of age. Like, I've learned all those lessons growing up, going through and learning these things myself and having the right mentors and the right people. And, today for young people, having YouTube and Facebook, and if you really connect with someone, oh my God, like, they can teach you so much with what they do without costing you a fortune. You get so much stuff for free today where people can build their own DNA of how they want to represent themselves, for people to go, I like that guy, I trust that guy. I think I do have a huge advantage being an Australian here in America. There seems to be some sort of trusting thing with the Australians, because we don't have a factor. Like, you can sort of have a conversation with us and know that we're not trying to sell you anything. We're trying to tell you what we're doing, or like the story I shared with you today. Like, I'm not here trying to sell any franchises to anybody. I'm just saying, this is what we've done and this is how we've gone about it. This is a sacrifice that we went through. But if it sounds interesting to you, oh my God, let's talk business. But it's not like, all right, okay, before I go, make sure you go to this particular website. If people love this interview that much, they're going to find out where I'm at, and we'll work it out. But that's really what it boils down to. Authenticity and transparency today, that's the winner.
I love that. And Anthony, I wanna start wrapping up here, because I want to be very respectful of your time.
Right. I could talk all night. It's probably a good thing.
Well, I'm tremendously appreciative of all the time that you have shared, and the story, and being very open and transparent about everything, and really giving us, opening up the kimono, for lack of a better term, and really, giving us a play-by-play, and going deep into your story, and all the different experiences that you've had. It's been truly an honor to be able to speak with you. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you, mate. That means a lot. I when we first started, I was like, I don't have the e-commerce that you're looking for. But when I knew that we were getting to the back end of it, I think sometimes you can get a different dialogue and foundation from somebody that, yes, it's a big part of our life that's about to unfold, but this is what I've got, because it's always been a priority, but this is how I've gone about it. So I'm sorry it wasn't all about e-commerce for your guys out there. It was more about how I believe e-commerce is going to work once you build your foundation and your loyal audiences at the end of the day. And mate, you've been great. I've really enjoyed you. You've got this calming nature about yourself that really helps a personality like mine. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, likewise, pleasure's been mine. And I do want to also thank everybody who's watching and listening. Y'all are the best, and I will see everybody on the next episode.